It's our 55th volume. We've been doing this since 2011. We do it once a quarter, and we are glad you all are here. If you've not been before, has anybody not been? All right, so here's what you're about to see. This was started in Tokyo, Japan by an architecture firm called Klein Dytham, and they created a presentation format that's 20 images, 20 seconds per image to tell your story. Tell people what you're excited about, what you're passionate about, and that's what you're going to see tonight. We have some thank yous. This is always a big thing that we do, but first we want to thank our presenters. This presentation is only as good as our presenters, and we have 9 tonight. 9 is our typical number, and so we really thank our presenters ahead of time for presenting tonight. We also thank the Mill and Mine for allowing us to come here without paying admission and have a public square. So thank you, Mill and Mine, for allowing us to host this here. And then we want to thank the person who created this wonderful poster, Roshni Trivedi. Thank you very much for creating this poster. She did this for free, again. And so you can find her online. It's there on the poster. I want to thank our team of curators. So over the 14 years that we've done this, we've had a large group of curators who've moved in and out, and there are 10 of us that are pictured there. Most of them are here tonight. And so thank you, collaborators, for pulling us off in Knoxville, Tennessee. This next slide is going to show you our order and our format. So we're going to have 3 presentations. We'll have an intermission where you can use the restroom, you can have a great conversation, you can get a beverage from the Mill and Mine. Then we'll have 3 more presentations, another intermission, and then 3 more. We do ask if your cell phone, if you'd be willing to silence it, that would be great. And if you want to have a conversation, there's a great tent outside. It's a very big tent where you can go out and have a conversation. So thank you all for coming, and welcome to Volume 55. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, I am Zach Guza, and according to Facebook, I have the perfect life. I graduated United States Air Force Academy. I got to fly Sky Jeeps. I married my high school sweetheart, and I have twin boys. Everybody is cute. Even the dog is cute. But unfortunately, I have a chronic, crippling depression, like hate myself, want to die type depression. And it's been brewing over a lifetime. And after a while, I finally got help because I'm a guy. And my psychiatrist said, I'm not going to give you the first pill until you get back exercising. So it was me and Tony Horton, P90X, 5 o'clock in the morning in my garage, sweating it out with Tony. And I didn't realize how much I had missed exercise. It was a huge part of the military. But exercise isn't the end-all be-all. I still take medication. I still get the therapy. But that spawned me to want to be a personal trainer. So I left a terrible civilian job, became a personal trainer, and opened Black Dog Fitness. First, I was just out of my gym, or out of my garage, seeing a few, and then we gained and gained and gained, and things are going really good. And I've got my own gym now. However, along the way, I saw this CBS Sunday Morning article because I'm 80 years old, and it was about this group called Rocksteady Boxing, and it's boxing fitness for people with Parkinson's disease. And I thought, that's perfect. They're doing for Parkinson's what I do for depression. So I joined up. Before the thing was even over, I was already a coach. And the reason for this is my dad had Parkinson's. So my dad was a big, funny, loud guy, and Parkinson's turned him into a small, quiet, insecure person. And he was horrible to watch. And I didn't want to see anybody else ever go through that again. So I established Rocksteady Boxing Knoxville. We skipped a slide. What is Parkinson's? We'll do that one. What is Parkinson's? Parkinson's, yeah, neurological, that stuff, but it sucks. There's no known cause. There's no known cure. And there's like 50 symptoms. Everybody knows the tremors, but nobody knows about these 30 and 40 and 50 other symptoms that are as innocuous as a little bit of shuffle in your walk, but as horrifying as terrifying hallucinations. You lose your sense of smell, you fall, you might choke to death at any moment, but everybody just thinks about tremors. And I knew I needed to know a lot more about this because of my Parkinson's fighters. So that's my first class 9 years ago. There was just a few of us. So we were gradually building steam, and things were getting better and better and better. Honestly, I have no idea what slide is next, so I'm just right along with you. So things were going really good. Okay, why is boxing so good for Parkinson's? The stuff that sucks about Parkinson's is awesome about boxing. Parkinson's makes you quiet. Boxing makes you loud. Parkinson's make you wobbly. Boxing makes you a brick house. Parkinson's make you feel small. In boxing, you put on these huge hands. It's awesome. So we figured this out because this doctor put a Parkinson's patient on the back of a tandem bike and said, let's ride across Iowa. And as they pedaled along and as things got crappier through the ride, she started to feel better and better. Her handwriting got better. She was able to button her own clothes, and things were amazing. And that's because of a sea squirt. A sea squirt, stick with me, it makes sense. A sea squirt is born like a tadpole and is wiggling around doing fine. And then it sticks itself to a rock. And that's where it stays for the rest of its life. The first thing it does is digest its own brain, because it's never going to move ever again. You have to move. So imagine your brain is a big series of roads, huge network of roads. And Parkinson's or age comes in and starts closing roads and putting potholes and reducing some of them to single lanes. And things start slowing down. So what we do with exercise is very intentionally flood those roads with traffic. More traffic than you can ever imagine. Angry drivers, and they start finding the shortcuts, and they start finding the detours, and they start driving through each other's front yards to make new roads. And then when the roads clear up, we have this whole new situation where our mind used to be talking to our body, but now our body is talking to our brain and rearranging things and saying, hey, you gotta be paying attention. Because the one guy who remembered how tired they were when they ran from the bear didn't get eaten the next time the bear came around. So you're actually making new neurons and making new connections with this intense exercise. I don't know why that one's back. Let's just take a break. But so that is why things are so perfect for Rocksteady Boxing, is the damage that Parkinson's has done, we're able to build around it. New neurons build their way around and help them recover. And this is not some pokey chair yoga class. Somebody came in and they're like, when's the class for Parkinson's? And I said, this is it. And they're out there beating the snot out of things, the radio's up. And she leans over to her husband and says, you better get your butt in gear. We're not messing around. They are fighting for their life. This is one of my classes. They are fighting. Do not get in their way. This is the fight for their life. And they mean it. People say, hey, can I come to one of the classes? I'm like, yeah, but remember, everybody here has Parkinson's, so try to keep up. So now we have grown, we've got this gym, we do spin, we have music therapy, we have yoga, we have Tai Chi, we do dance lessons, we go get beer and pizza from a brewery, we have speakers you can dress as preserved meat. It's a whole new world we have developed around Parkinson's and around boxing. And the biggest thing about it is it gives my fighters, gives all of them, the feeling that there's still hope. They can still do things. They're still awesome despite Parkinson's. So they'll come in there with their cane and forget it over a workout. And I take it hostage. So, fight back against Parkinson's.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Lindsay, and I am an organizer with Sober in Knoxville and more recently Sober in Maryville. We launched in 2022 as part of a national organization called the Sober City Movement, and we host events for people who are sober, Cali sober, sober-ish, and sober curious. The overall mission of our group is to build a community of people who find the value in sobriety, as well as create events for those people to make meaningful connections. We're all about creating those inclusive spaces that cultivate connection, but most importantly, fun. This all came about when I was about 1 year alcohol-free, and I was looking for other sober social groups in the area. When I started looking for these groups, a lot of them were rooted in religious organizations or addiction recovery, many of which have missions of full abstinence from all substances, something I like to call super sober. Super sober works great for a lot of people in our community, and sometimes it can leave out others who find the value in sobriety but maybe don't live a life 100% devoid of mind-altering substances. So this is where harm reduction comes in. Harm reduction is the idea of meeting people where they're at. So we offer supportive, non-judgmental support, and we encourage people to make small, incremental, and positive changes in their life at their own pace. We do this through our 3 emotional sobriety meetings every week. Emotional sobriety is the concept of being able to sit comfortably with all of your emotions without reaching for a harmful coping mechanism to escape. So think doom scrolling, vaping, drinking sometimes. We also do this through our events. So sometimes we meet in completely sober spaces, like the top image, a bingo night out at South Press Coffee, or we'll come out to things like First Friday as a sober group and catch some mocktails at Monkey's Bar afterwards. And the rest of these images are going to show you a few of the events that we've gone to, so curated at the Bird in the Book, stargazing up at Look Rock, and even some sober summer concerts. But I want to take this time to define some of those fun, trendy, sober alternative lifestyles. So what is Cali Sober? Cali Sober is the idea that maybe I don't drink alcohol or consume other hard drugs, as they say, but maybe I still dabble in cannabis or kava or plant-based substances, either medicinally or recreationally. And then what about sober-ish? Sober-ish is the idea that maybe I watch my consumption. Maybe I take a break on Friday night when everybody else is grabbing a beer or two. Just being mindful of how much I'm drinking and how that affects me and my lifestyle. And then what about sober curious? Sober curious to me is like cracking the door on sobriety and taking a little peek inside. Maybe you start to question what you're consuming, how much you're consuming, and how that affects your relationships and overall personal goals. So we really want to normalize sobriety, normalize socializing without substances, and normalize making conscious connections. We do these with help from local businesses like the Butchery, Noble Kava, and the Kraken's Cup, all of which help to host our emotional sobriety meetings. Plus, we'll soon have a 4th emotional sobriety meeting in Maryville at a new location called Daisy's Non-Alcoholic Bar and Bottle Shop, set to open in 2025. So follow us on Facebook and Instagram to catch when you can come out and meet us there. It'll be all the general bar stuff, trivia, football games, just no alcohol. We want to stress that our community is for all types of sober lifestyles. Our emotional sobriety meetings are hosted in those public places to help bring awareness to community care and give people different options of things to do for entertainment. So we have a ton of opportunities within our organization to help out and be a part of. We've got tons of volunteer opportunities where you can host an event yourself or even just help us post on social media. Volunteers are always welcome. We also love to encourage other groups and businesses to host their own sober events. So we've attended the monthly dance at Knox Social Dance before, and we've joined the Knox Girls Who Walk group for their Saturday morning walks as well, things that are just natively sober. Next, we've got tons of May events coming up. Tomorrow even, we've got a fireside chat out in Greenback, free marshmallows for everybody. Next Wednesday, Curious Elixirs, a popular NA brand, is helping us to host a party at Daisy's out in Maryville. And then at the end of the month on Memorial Day weekend, we've got a sober summer kickoff out at Concord Yacht Club. So you can find us on all of these channels: Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, Discord, and the new Connecting Knox app, if you're not familiar. Get out your phones because we've got a Linktree QR code next, so you can scan that and connect with us on all of our platforms. Or if maybe this isn't the community for you, you could scan it and share it out to somebody who might find it valuable. Because again, we're here to say that there is a community for those people that might be a little bit in between. Folks who are sober, folks who are trying sober, and folks who are just sober for our events. So I just want to thank you so much for allowing me to take this time to share our organizations with you. I would love to see every single one of you at one of our events coming up. If you'd like any more information, please find me after the evening. Thank you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Scott Erland. I'm the Communications Manager for the Knoxville Police Department. And let me start first. I know you probably were all hoping to hear from the horses, but unfortunately, you have to hear from me. And so I'll do the best I can to guide us through this presentation. So I'm here to, of course, talk about our newest unit, our Mounted Patrol Unit, which many of you probably saw as you were making your way into the building. Just last week, we actually held our certification and swearing-in ceremony for 3 of our officers who went through that training, and our 2 horses who got their badges. Yes, Phil and Wagner do have badges, so yes, thank you very much. Yes. So those officers and the horses have been training together actually since, there's that badge, just so there's proof of it right there. So those officers and horses have actually been training together since late January in preparation for the launch of a Mounted Patrol Unit. And this is amazing timing because this week is actually the first full week that the unit has been operational in the downtown area, Market Square, and the Old City. So the timing could not have really worked out any better. I do want to talk just briefly a little bit about the history of horseback patrols in Knoxville. There is a rich history of horse patrols in Knoxville that dates back to at least the late 1800s, according to historian Jack Neely, who you're probably all familiar with. Actually, KPD officers on horses led out the centennial 4th of July parade down Gay Street in 1876. The city also operated stables. At one time, the city did operate their own stables for horses, and at one time, those stables were in Market Square in City Hall. So really, this project is a reflection. It honors that history, and is also a current reflection of what we do now to keep our community safe and improve quality of life. So, I want to get into a little bit about the training. Again, talked about that, 3 months of training. It's a minimum of 150 hours of training for officers to be Mounted Patrol certified. That training really started with the very fundamentals, the real basics. If you talk to most of our Mounted Patrol officers, they'll tell you they had very little to no experience with horses before this. So this is the basics of the basic care for horses, saddling up a horse, getting on and off a horse. And then a really important piece of this was building that relationship with the horse. Of course, riders and horses are putting a tremendous amount of faith and trust in one another, so that relationship building was a really important component of that training. And also, they're training for the mission, right? The mission is to patrol downtown in the special events. That entailed a lot of repetition going over uneven surfaces, right? Going up and down stairs. Any of the things they might encounter when they're working in an urban downtown environment, which is significantly different than just trail riding or any of those other more normal horseback riding situations. They also got significant sensory training to expose them to any of the various sounds they might hear downtown. If you look at any of the videos we put out, you'll see officers banging on signs and stuff like that. That was exposing them and getting them prepared to those sounds that they could hear, right? And then there was a significant portion of that training of just how to ride together, how to work as a team. So there was a lot of this relationship building, all of the care, a lot that went into it, and we're really proud of our officers for the work they put into this, the unique challenge they took on to be a part of this training. The Mounted Patrol Unit actually made its very first public appearance. Had got the opportunity, that's an unfortunate opportunity, but we were proud to be a part of it. In March, we got to be a part of the funeral service for Metro Nashville Police Commander Anthony McLean, who experienced a medical crisis while on duty, ended up passing away. And Phil, one of our horses, look how beautiful he looks when he represented our department, our city, in the funeral services for Commander McLean. Metro Nashville has had a mounted patrol unit since 1998. They've been an amazing resource for us, and we're proud to be a part of that event for the Metro Nashville and support their men and women as they were going through those difficult times. Of course, many of you might have had the opportunity, if you had seen them before today, you might have had the opportunity when they made their real official debut here in Knoxville at the same time as the historic opening for Covenant Health Park during the week of April 15th. During that time, they did supervised patrols with our amazing captain, Captain Ryan Mora, who led the training. You can see him on horseback right there. And that actually is the first known, I should say, photo that any member of the public took with our mounted patrol during April 15th. So that's really cool. We have that for historical purposes. The horses performed extremely well during that week. The riders performed extremely well. We gave out hundreds of these miniature toy plush horses to kids, and really made a lot of kids' day. And I got to see the power of that community engagement. So a lot of you probably are asking, what is the purpose? What is the purpose? What are the benefits of a mounted patrol unit? And I can tell you, we can tell you there are a tremendous number of values. For one, the increased visibility. People can see us from further away, we can see them from further away, and we know that visible police presence it positively impacts crime. This is my favorite picture in the entire slideshow because it gives you an idea of the sight lines that officers have on top of horseback. And this will come in really particularly handy during special events. You think back to the UT baseball celebratory parade, where those elevated sight lines would come in really handy. Also, horses are an amazing bridge to the community. That's a huge element of this for us. And we've already seen the powerful effects of the community engagement opportunities that this creates. And we really do. We want people to come and approach the horses. We want people to come and say hi. And I know a lot of you have already taken advantage of that today. Also want to hit a little bit on the care that these horses receive. I talked a lot about the relationship building that happened over the course of that 3-month training. These horses have really become a part of our family. We care for them like we do our lead. This is another great picture here where you get to see them having one of their relaxing days off. It's been a long 3 months for them as well. But our officers really take a tremendous amount of pride in the care and making the well-being of these horses, again, who are members of our family. They're going to be working 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift, but the front and the back end of those shifts is dedicated to their care and their feed and making sure that they're healthy and happy. So, again, I really want to encourage everyone. The horses are here. Phil and Wagner are here at this intermission. I hope you'll come up and say hi to them. And if you see them out in the streets in downtown Knoxville, we certainly hope that you'll come up and say hi. We're really excited about this unit and everything, all the positive effects it's going to have here in Knoxville. Thank you very much.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening. I am Christina Honkanen, and tonight I'm here to demystify hypnosis. Like many people, I came to hypnosis as a last resort. When my child's pediatrician actually suggested it, all I could picture was a stage show that I had seen in college. But later, when things got hard again, like most parents, I was willing to try anything. We turned to hypnosis, and my child saw so much progress, and I was fascinated. That experience launched me into a deep study, and I'm now a certified clinical and sports hypnotist. I've spent thousands of hours studying hypnosis and hypnotizing my clients, and what I've learned is this: the power is not in me, it is actually in you. When people learn I'm a hypnotist, they will ask me, can you hypnotize me? And the answer is, I can if you're willing, and you will probably hear every word I say. It's self-control that is taught. You're learning to use words and your imagination on purpose to shift how you feel and then how your body responds. In hypnosis, what we're doing is shifting from beta brainwave state into this calmer alpha theta waves. You pass through this state every day as you're falling asleep, and then again as you wake up in the morning. And you go into it when you meditate or pray. So what exactly is happening to the brain when we go into this hypnotic state? Stanford's Dr. David Spiegel used fMRI scans to look at the brain in a hypnotic trance and discovered that the part of your brain that is linked to self-criticism actually goes quiet. And at the same time, areas for focus and mind-body control become more active. Every hypnotic technique whether using language patterns, a shift in tone, or a metaphor, relies on words and imagination. Your attention becomes more focused in trance. We use language to create images, and this all influences physiological change. Imagination and words are our tools. One way to think about the subconscious mind is to think of it as a mechanism that helps you influence the nervous system, and it's very literal. For example, if I say, don't think of pink elephants, what are you thinking of? Our brain is forced to pull up the thing that we don't want in order to then remove it. That becomes a problem when we desperately want to stop thinking about the food or the cigarettes or the stress or the issue, whatever it may be. So what do we do instead? Here's the secret. Hypnosis helps my clients shift their focus, and they create something that is more compelling to move toward. In essence, you are changing your own mind. Sometimes a single session creates a dramatic new change. Someone quits smoking or drops a phobia. That's called one trial learning, and it usually happens when the emotional motivation is really strong for that person, the suggestion is really clear, and the person is highly hypnotizable. But for most of us, change takes practice and repetition. That could look like 6 to 12 sessions, or listening to a recording for somewhere around 21 days. In time, hypnosis quiets the critical mind, and that opens up space to create new solutions. That sounds really basic, but when a 30-year smoker stops smoking after one session, that's when it seems magical. But let's talk about why words and visuals are so powerful. We know that every thought we have creates a physiological response. For example, if I ask you to imagine biting into a juicy lemon, the body responds by increasing saliva. Hypnosis helps us step in and influence what we imagine. And this is important because the human brain is wired to look for danger. That's called negativity bias, and it's kept our ancestors alive, and it's the same instinct today that prevents us from doing stupid things like touching a hot stove. But when it's left unchecked, it can lead to heightened stress. And this can lead to chronic stress that raises cortisol and adrenaline, which is fine until it's at excessively high levels, and this disrupts the body's balance, leading to a host of issues like inflammation, sleep disturbance, weakened immunity, and this can lead to illness. In a very real way, our words can create thoughts that create visuals that can influence our health. Hypnosis is now used for anxiety, IBS, phobias, performance enhancement, and so much more, and leading academic institutions are studying it, including Stanford, Columbia, and Johns Hopkins. And hundreds of studies have explored how we can use it, from removing and reducing warts to controlling asthma attacks, and for some, creating a more comfortable and enjoyable birth experience. It can even be used to induce anesthesia in the body. We call this hypnoanesthesia, and almost every organ of the body has been operated on using hypnosis as the sole anesthetic. I'm not here to convince you to do that today. Research has shown that hypnosis used during surgery has a variety of benefits when used alongside chemical anesthesia. Overall, it reduces blood loss, increases comfort, shortens recovery time, and actually reduces the amount of chemical anesthesia used during an operation. In another study, hypnosis alone cleared HPV warts 5 times more effectively than medical treatment, such as freezing or surgery. Your vision of success is oftentimes on the other side of a better or smarter internal script. When we speak to ourselves with clarity, kindness, and confidence, we can use our imagination to change our belief in what is possible. We can create a compelling vision, and our body can help make it a reality. But I am reminded constantly of what a responsibility this is. And it's a responsibility that we have the choice to take on. But when we ignore it, our brain is left to its own devices, and it will always choose first to protect itself. It will look for the negative in order to keep you safe. And it's up to each of us to step in. You can certainly join me in calling it hypnosis and practicing hypnosis, or you can turn to prayer, or meditation, or guided visualization. You can call it whatever you like. But it can also be as simple as choosing to speak wisely and kindly, and dare I say optimistically, to yourself and everyone around you. Because if I've learned anything after thousands of hours of study and practice, it's this: you are ultimately your own most powerful hypnotist. Thank you.
Andre, you all. This is Jonathan. I was thinking the other day about the advances that we have today for success compared to people like John D. Rockefeller in the turn of the 19th century. I mean, we've got talking geniuses in our pockets that can pretty much teach us anything our hearts desire to learn just at home. But what he did have was friends. He had people who believed in his cause. People like Christian Herter, who helped him develop the Medical Research Institution just before he succumbed to his own illnesses. John Rankin. John Rankin was known as the leader of the Underground Railroad in his area of Ripley, Ohio. He was said to have helped thousands of slaves make it to freedom. But he couldn't have done that without the friends of his like John Parker. John Parker built his home right near the river so that slaves who were escaping to Kentucky, could get shelter in his home before they made it up to John Rankin's home. And together they helped thousands of people make it to freedom. Now, I'm not saying that every great person has to have a John, unless you're talking about a toilet. But I am saying that if I'm ever to be known as great, it's going to largely be because of the John in my life, Jonathan Williams. Together, we have learned the epitome of team. People who may have come from different backgrounds, different cultures, and came together to build and accomplish things. He's been the greatest thing that's happened to my life.
So this is the team that we created. We created the Unity Ride in 2017. And by some weird happenstance, I met Andre Block at New Year's Eve 2015 at Scruffy City Hall. And I had no idea that chance meeting on New Year's Eve would change my life forever. Because we created this movement that we started with these gentlemen here in 2017, riding bicycles across America. We chose bicycles to use as our medium to come together, to be a team, to do what we do. We started off as perfect strangers. I knew Andre a little bit. My cousin Justin and Matt didn't know each other at all. And we started riding bikes. And we started riding bikes across America together to do a lot of really cool, neat stuff, to talk about friendship, to talk about teamwork, to talk about all the things that we've done. We kind of started a little bit of the white guy, the black guy, the liberal, the conservative, but we went away from that message because we're just human beings. And we wanted to just talk about us as people and us as individuals more than that. All the bike trips we've done and all the riding we've done, we need a lot of help along the way. So sometimes you see a statue in the desert that you need to pay homage to and say, we really need some help today, because that was a long day on the bike and we went there. It's like, all right, we just need some help. We need somebody to kind of guide us through. This is Justin. This is a trip that we made in California, actually during COVID. We were in California and he's riding up the mountains. So that picture's there just to say that we've done a lot of stuff together. We have ridden bikes together, we've laughed together, we've cried together, we've done everything that we could possibly do together in the name of unity, in the name of friendship, in the name of love. And again, these routes that we take, this is our 2023 route that we did, Route 66 in California. We started in Yosemite and went all the way across the Mojave Desert on Route 66. And we spent 2 months on that trip, and it was, to say life-changing is an understatement. That doesn't do it any justice at all. So these two gentlemen right here have changed my life forever.
What we wanted to do is highlight the impact of friends or of networking, people who believe in the same thing. So what we'd like for you all to do is stand up and join us for a quick second.
Stand up.
We want you to look around, look at everyone in this room. This room is filled with people who have the same passion you have. There's someone in this room that wants to start that community garden just like you want to start. There's someone in this room that wants to build that youth center that you want to start. There is someone here that is willing and ready to network on the same level as you. And we want to make sure that, shake someone's hand.
Shake somebody's hand. Meet your neighbor. Say hi.
Before you leave today, give someone your business card today.
Andre and I met by happen chance. Now maybe you might meet somebody tonight that might change your life. You never know. Look at all this love.
Yes,
Look at all this
yes.
love.
This part is important, you all. We miss way too many opportunities to do that, to network, to build together. And we want to make sure that what you all leave today with is the idea that everywhere you go, every day, there is someone right next to you willing to build with you. And this room is full of them, so make sure you network today.
Because you just never know. Like I said, we met by chance. And 10 years later, here we are still doing this. We're not done yet. We got a film premiere we're doing on Sunday from our 2023 film. And we just got so much more to do and so much more life to live. And Justin's not here, but I mean, these two, we've ridden so many bicycles together and spent so much time with one another. And it really just comes down to just trusting each other, being friends, having the respect and the courtesy that we extend each other, and just letting everything else just kind of be.
Yes, absolutely. And so for our last few minutes, we wanted to give a thank you.
I do. Hey, Lauren, don't start the countdown yet. Let me see.
Matthew, just for you. So Andre and I shared this stage 7 years ago, and I did not know Matthew DeBartolini at all. Obviously, you can't miss him. You know who he is. You know he does PechaKucha, but I had no idea who this man was. Over the next 7 years, this has become one of my favorite people that I've ever met. We have cried together, we've laughed together, we've traveled together, we've done business together. I wrote him a check, he sold my building, and we've done a lot of things together. So, one thing I will say, if anybody's ever traveled with Matthew DeBartolini, Matthew, please put some clothes on, bro. Please, God, put some clothes on. Please put some clothes on. I love you, my friend, so much. Thank you for everything.
In 1975, St. John's Community Television Production Center started in the basement of St. John's Episcopal Cathedral and eventually became Community Television of Knoxville. And then in 2021, we became Knoxville Community Media. So we've been serving this community almost 50 years. Cell phones came along, everybody's got one in their pocket, everybody's got access to social media and a camera. People don't watch television anymore, so our relevance became irrelevant. Yeah. So we had to figure out what we were going to do. I love this. This is one of the old brochures that we had. Where we were a real vital community center, and we really lost that. So over the past 3 years, we've tried to think of ways to reinvigorate. So we've started to embrace more media, which is why we changed the name from TV to media. So we do zine production workshops, we do documentary film workshops, communicative arts workshops, all sorts of things, but radio was a thing that we never really fully got a hold of. We tried a couple of radio stations and nothing really happened with it. Tried some podcasting classes and it didn't work. We continued to engage the community with some really cool arts projects and multimedia events. We hosted Octopus Project and EMA and Tatsuya Nakatani, and this is Eviction from this past August in the vacant Andrew Johnson building. So we were doing all these cool kind of storytelling things, but we still had empty studios. Each engagement event that we did, people would get excited and they would come and tour the studio. A lot of people would even pay our cheap $25 membership fee to come and learn how to use our equipment, but nobody would show up, so we still had these empty studios. June or July, the whole Benny Smith thing happened at WUTK that probably most of you have heard about. And a lot of those DJs, all of those DJs lost their gigs. And a couple of them who I knew personally, Rob and Derek, were hosting an event. And I said, why don't you all come on TV and talk about what you're doing? And that's kind of how we started pursuing radio. We were wanting to move. We had big plans to move because we're in kind of an inaccessible location in the First Horizon building. But that never really worked out. My board had set aside some money for a feasibility study, and we didn't move, so I had that money, and one thing led to another, and we bought everything we needed for a radio station with that money. and started building that out in August with the help of Rob Travis, who had Raucous Radio during the pandemic, and Jason Boardman, who is the founder of the Pilot Light. We still needed more money, so we started hosting more events. We had this great show at the Pilot Light with Coma Cinema and Pity Cat that raised a lot of awareness and a lot of money for some of the equipment that we needed, and kept moving forward. And then we opened the books in October, I think, and people started signing up, and we started to get more engagement than we had seen in 20 years. So we launched this whole Radio KCM thing. We got over 40 people who were interested in creating content for our station. Still needed money. In the month of November, we hosted this art show that featured a lot of art from workshops that we'd done throughout the year, and we were open every Friday, and nobody came, and we didn't sell a single piece of art. Jen and I danced in the studios together, though, and played music, so that was fun. But we have this really cool art if you want to buy it. We had an open house, and all the DJs came, and they got to play live music. It was the first time we kind of went up on air unofficially, and people got to get their feel around the cassette decks and the CD players and the turntables and the digital media. And then we launched on December 1st, Radio KCM. So radiokcm.com or the TuneIn app or Live 365, you can find us. We are an internet-based radio station, but there's some freedom in that because you can say or do anything you want to do. We don't have to worry about FCC regulations. We still needed money, and we were approached by Wayne Stock, and they asked us if we wanted to be the beneficiary that year. So we went all weekend, set a booth up, and they gave us a check for $8,000 at the end of that. That was really great. And we're going to be able to buy a new production board. Got all kinds of great shows that are happening with all kinds of interesting guests. This is me on my show Kick Turn Party, which comes on Fridays from 4 to 6, and we had Tony Hawk on a couple of months ago. So people are having some really cool people show up on their programs. Nobody's having people as cool as me, but this is a list of shows that we've got. We got Waking Dream, The Funk Box, Subtle Green, Morning, Tea Time with JJ, New Revolution, Super Soul Sundays, Tiny Cadet Radio, Gold Standard Hip Hop, Near Dark Radio, The Drift, Your Tap, on and on. And it's everything from punk rock to heavy metal to comedy to talk shows. You can have your own show. That's the great thing about it. You can come be a part of what we're doing. If you want to do TV production, you can do TV production. If you want to do a radio show, do a radio show. You can talk about anything you want to. I know there's a lot of Trump fans out there, so you can be the new Rush Limbaugh and have your own. Wah, wah, wah. So radio at knoxcm.org. You can reach out to us and schedule it. Just come up and play. Sit down and play the turntables. You don't even have to show. See if you like it, and if you like it, for $25 you can become a member and have your own regularly scheduled show with your friends. There's a very tiny QR code you can't get, I don't guess, but that shows where we're on at, and it really is a lovely radio station. So I encourage you to tune in and listen. I encourage you to be a part of community. Talk about making friends. It's a great way to make friends, and it's a great way to spend time with your friends. So thank you very much.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everybody, I'm Delaney Ball. I'm a Knoxville-based sculptor and maker, and I recently opened my own business, Nocturnal Studios. I do custom metalwork and woodworking, as well as architectural components and clothing and painting and a little bit of everything. I want to start off with one of my favorite projects, which is a series of ballistic lingerie or bulletproof corsets. So I made these using material donated by a local Knoxville company called Carbon Rivers, and they've actually made a material that is thinner and lighter than any other ballistic fabric in the world, which is it's just amazing. I've gotten to witness them testing it, and it's an incredible material. And so when I was making this, I was thinking a lot about intimacy and protection and how those things exist simultaneously. as well as creating something that is kind of hilarious and ridiculous, but at the same time still somewhat functional in our day and age. So I do a lot of figurative work. I've always been inspired by the body. I grew up on a military base and spent a lot of time in a military hospital and witnessed a lot of medical procedures, which gave me kind of a lifelong fascination with the internal and external functions of the body. So you might notice through a lot of my work is inspired with the colors, and the forms are inspired by veins and flesh and a lot of different things like that. But as well as the physical or the tangible, I've also really enjoyed digital fabrication. Except as I got into digital fabrication, I found the perfection of it to be a little bit boring. And so I started trying to look for ways to alter the materials or the ways that the machine would run in order to distort the outcome of the final projects, and also looking for ways to exploit the different kinds of glitches that you get with different machines. And so in particular with this piece, programming to the point where the wood begins to deteriorate, but just before it actually loses its structure. You can even see the light passing through, and I love those little moments like that. I spent 2 years living in Australia, working as a knife maker and an instructor at Darwin Valley Forge, which is one of the world's top bladesmithing schools. My favorite part about working there was actually teaching classes. We taught a lot of really short-term classes where people would come in over a weekend and make things they never thought that they could make. I'm really looking forward to teaching different workshops over at Able Trade, which is where my business is located. So if you're interested in learning how to make some cool stuff, keep your eyes peeled for different kinds of workshops that are going to happen over there. And so, what do I have next? So I've got some sculpture for you next. This is an abstracted bat, in case you can't tell what it is. I've always been really obsessed with nocturnes because I am a lifelong, unrepenting night owl. And I think there's something really beautiful about the way the light and shadows at night kind of distort our perception of the world around us and can almost impact our emotions in a way that is a little more intense and primal. And so I do install that bat randomly in places around town, so if you ever see him hanging in an alley or in a stairwell in a bar, you can wave and say hello. So this next sculpture, however, unfortunately, right now, I do not have a picture of the entire thing, so we're going to have to work with close-ups. But it is a set of wooden doors that I carved from solid wood, made from scratch, but they are 8 feet tall and 6 feet wide. At the top half of these doors, you can only see the bottom part of it, but there's a large circle carved in, and inside that circle I have a series of bronze castings, which is the close-up on the left over there, that all pivot around a central point, so the movement kind of resembles a planetary model. And then straddling the seam of the door, I carved in the shape of lungs, so one on each side, and then inside of that I used glass tubes and shaped them and charged them with neon and argon gas to resemble pulmonary arteries and veins. And I even was able to hide all of the wiring through channels that I ran inside of the doors so that it wouldn't be visible on the front or the back as well. And so this next sculpture here actually was supposed to just be a waste mold, but I liked the mold way better than I liked the metal that I cast inside of it. And I think that was partly because it looks like an artifact or something ancient you dig up with illegible markings and you can't tell what it means. And I started looking back at old work that I had created, such as these, where I would do a lot with indecipherable text, and realizing that when a text becomes mostly indecipherable, it becomes more of a formal element rather than an informative one. And I really enjoyed that. And so none of this is my work. This is all inspiration for what I'm about to tell you about. But I've always really loved old astronomical tools and charts and maps that attempted to understand the world and the universe and the skies, and they usually were full of languages that I don't understand, but just made them more beautiful to me. And when I was in grad school, I reached a certain point where I was really struggling to communicate my work in a way that other people understood, and I eventually realized it's because I think entirely in abstract thought. I don't have any internal dialogue. I don't think in English or in any other language. So I was trying to translate my thoughts into English, and a lot of what I was thinking was getting lost in translation. So I started creating my own hieroglyphic language with symbols that describe things exactly as they are in my brain. I eventually turned that into a font and turned my thesis in like a bilingual book because I had to go a little all out. But so looking forward, I'm just really excited to integrate some of these newer designs and my language into custom clothing and paintings and furniture and some more different designs, really anything I can get my hands on. We'll see where that goes. Like I said, just open the doors of the business, so if you need something, let me know.
Thanks for giving the opportunity to talk about conservation fisheries. We are a nonprofit based here in Knoxville that may be one of the least known nonprofits in town. We've been saving fish, restoring fish populations across the entire U.S., eastern U.S., since 1986. This is some of the diversity that we see in our own region. This says the fishes of the southeastern U.S., it's about half of the fish that actually live here. We live in a biological treasure in the southeast. But a lot of us live here, and a lot of us have been impacting these fish for many, many years. About 25% of the world's freshwater species are at risk of extinction. We work to bring them back. This is one of the gems of the river, the spot-fin chub, really poorly named, but a gorgeous fish. These are two males that are fighting over spawning habitat. Just an example of how beautiful these animals are. These used to occur all across the eastern U.S., now they're restricted. Some of the fish are architects. This is the river chub, building a nest for them to spawn on. But you see all these other fish running around too. They're nest associates. They're taking advantage of his alteration of the habitat to find a spawning spot for themselves. So they're part of an interconnected community. Humans have been messing with that community for a lot of years. Things have gotten better though. The Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, the Endangered Species Act have fixed many of the problems that are out there. A lot of them still remain. Silt, soil is probably the biggest pollutant of our streams to date. TVA did some great things. I worked for TVA for 25 years. But we put up dams, and if you count all the dams in the Tennessee River system, there are over 9,000 dams just in the Tennessee drainage. Add to that road crossings, culverts, other barriers, over 207,000 barriers to these little bitty fish. This is the yellowfin madtom, about 3.5 inches long. These fish cannot go over that dam. They can't pass through a reservoir. So this is one of the first fish that we worked with at Conservation Fisheries, and I'll probably talk a lot about catfish because I love them. But these guys are just on the verge of being removed from the endangered species list, which is what conservation is intended to do. The smoky madtom, only known from Abrams Creek when it was discovered. It was wiped out from Abrams Creek. We thought it was extinct. Some biologists found it in nearby Citico Creek. We started working to restore this fish. How do you do that? You raise them in captivity. We started small. This is the first tank in Hessler Biology Building at the University of Tennessee, where conservation fisheries started, and we worked with those two species to see if we could restore them. It worked. It took decades. We've been working with those fish for almost 40 years. And why are they sensitive? Well, this is what yellowfin madtoms look like when they hatch. They're not a fish yet. They're a larva. They're basically a giant egg yolk with a tiny fish attached. The male stays with those fish, guards them, protects them, lets them grow until they go out and disperse on their own. The boulder darter is another fish we've been working with for years. Until Conservation Fisheries started researching the biology of this fish, nobody knew why they were declining. It turned out that the larval stages were very sensitive to dam operations. Conservation Fisheries worked with TVA and the Fish and Wildlife Service to fundamentally change how that dam you saw before was operated to save these fish. JR and Pat, our founders, can't go without acknowledging these guys. We went from that one tank to now a 5,000 square foot building. We're working with 20 species of threatened or imperiled freshwater fish now. And these are the people who do it. This is a pretty astounding crew. We're as big as we've ever been. For many years, it was Pat and JR and a few volunteers. We've had 300 or 400 staff and volunteers move through CFI in the past 30 years. And without their dedication and commitment and the art of raising these fish, we wouldn't be where we are. Like I said, Conservation Fisheries has been doing this for almost 40 years, and we've been on mission that whole time. We can ignore state budget priorities and federal budget priorities and operate as a nonprofit to save these animals. So our strength is in our consistency. And our friends. Those of you who don't recognize this guy, this is Joel Sartori, National Geographic photographer. He is a huge advocate of our work, and the species that he's holding the picture of there, the Roanoke log perch, was proposed to be removed from the endangered species list last year. So another victory for the work that we do. Some of our partners are the Fish and Wildlife Service. This is the now former head of the Fish and Wildlife Service releasing yellowfin mad toms at Seven Islands State Birding Park. So our partners are big partners, small partners, landowners are very important to a lot of this recovery. And education is a key. Getting people out into the streams to see what these animals are, to experience them in their native habitats and appreciate them. And we like to start young. Kids can be influenced and they take this home to their parents and tell their parents why they shouldn't throw that disposable plastic cup into the river. I love this image. This is about 68 of the 86 species that Conservation Fisheries has worked with over the years. And if you're keen of eye, you can see that one of them is not a fish. The eastern hellbender is going to be our next species that we work with. This is a gorgeous fish. Can you believe that that doesn't live on a coral reef? That's the candy darter. It lives in coal mining country in West Virginia and Virginia. This is our 86th species since 1986, and we're working to restore this fish to streams that have been impacted by past practices. This slide is a reminder that we hold these animals' fates in our hands, and we hold our own fates in our own hands. We have to take care of these streams, not only to support these amazing animals, but to support all the uses that humans require of clean water, clean air, and a clean environment. Thank you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is my aunt, Lori Smith Camp. She was the first woman to serve as a federal judge in the state of Nebraska. She was nominated by President George W. Bush, and her confirmation date was scheduled for September 11th, 2001. She was confirmed a few weeks later, and she served on the bench for 19 years, 7 as the head federal judge. This is George Norris. He was a 5-term senator from Nebraska, and my aunt told me and my wife about her as soon as we moved here because Senator Norris and President Roosevelt shared a vision for the Tennessee Valley, and he wrote the Norris Bill, which then became the TVA Act. This next slide is my great-grandfather. This is Robert Smith, and his mission in life was to dismantle organized crime in Omaha. So when Senator Norris ran for re-election, one of the tricks that the mob ran was to run someone of the same name on the ballot in order to split the vote and get their candidate elected. My great-grandfather stopped that from happening, so years later, he returned the favor with a letter of support. This, of course, is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She and my Aunt Lori were great friends, and in 2020 they worked together to celebrate the centennial of the 19th Amendment, guaranteeing women the right to vote. On September 18th, 2020, RBG passed away, and my aunt recorded a tribute video on YouTube. 2 days later, my dear Aunt Lori passed away in her sleep. During her lifetime, my Aunt Lori was a great advocate for Chief Standing Bear, who in 1879 successfully argued in U.S. District Court that Native Americans were persons under the meaning of the law. And she wanted to commemorate him on a U.S. stamp, which ended up happening a couple years after she died in 2023. As a kid, that story caught my imagination because, of course, I pictured a standing bear, which, when they're fully adult, can reach upwards of 9 feet. I grew up in the central coast of California, near the Los Padres National Forest, where we had black bears, and up until the 1920s, we had grizzly bears as well. The native Chumash tribe in Los Olivos, California, where I grew up, reveres bears, and they came to my grade school every year to do a sage ceremony to celebrate the 4 directions. North was represented by the bear. So when the great eagle soars above the land, if it senses danger, it warns the bear, the protector of the land, because no creature is stronger. Knowing this, my dad, my brother, and I always carried cowbells with us when we went fishing in my dad's home state of Wyoming. We wanted to let the bears know that we were around, trying to catch our limit of rainbow and brook trout. We didn't want to surprise them, and more importantly, we didn't want them to surprise us. I got my first bike when I was a kid. My mom took me to a church parking lot to learn how to ride, and that was my first experience sensing that balance and that joy and freedom that you can get on 2 wheels. And so in 2002, when I was 23 and my dad passed away, I bought my first road bike. And I was angry and I was sad and I pushed myself up 18% grades and I took way too many risks on downhills, but mostly I wore myself out to kind of make peace with the world. And fast forward a year, I trained enough that I went and raced in Death Valley in the Furnace Creek 508. 508 miles, 35,000 feet of climbing in 35 hours and 7 minutes. As the sign says, no stopping anytime. I thought a lot about my dad on the bike. There's a famous apocryphal story about Albert Einstein. It said that he conceived the theory of relativity while riding a bike. That's probably not actually true, but he did write a letter to his son that said, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. And so fast forward 2 decades from when I got my first bike, I've tried to keep moving. One of the rides I got to do with one of the previous speakers, Jonathan Williams, was to ride from Knoxville down to Daytona as part of Pedal for Alzheimer's in celebration of Pat Summitt's life. 2 years ago, I rode the race across Oregon 500, the Natchez Trace 444, and this photo is from a month ago, racing the Longhorn 500 in Fredericksburg, Texas. Thankfully, we live in a great area to ride bikes, and the Great Smoky Mountains National Park is the most biodiverse park in the country. So we've got the greatest variety of salamanders, we've got synchronous fireflies, and we have about 1,500 black bears, including these 3 that I saw on one of my rides around Cades Cove. About 3 years ago, I was doing one of my favorite rides up Bluff Mountain in Sevierville, and I took this photo at sunrise before I headed down. So I was carving turns, going 30 plus miles an hour, and came around a turn and collided head on with a big black bear. So I tagged it at full speed, and I was very grateful to be alive. Of course, it was scary, and not just for me. The accident literally scared the crap out of the bear all over Bluff Mountain Road. So when I picked myself up, I tried to walk it off, but I had broken my leg in 3 places, and my steel bike was broken in 3 places as well. So when I got to the ER, of course, the joke started. ER doctors have a great sense of humor, so they asked me what was my pain on a scale of 1 to unbearable. That night, we went to go watch the One Knox soccer game because it was the first game of the playoffs, and of course we didn't want to miss it. So one of the great benefits of having a big cast on your leg is we got to sit on the field close to the action and enjoy the game. And I got to tell my story about what happened to my leg that day hitting a bear on a bike ride. 2 days later, we went to Townsend, and so my wife and my kids rode in the annual Dancing Bear Bicycle Bash that we had signed up as a family, but of course I couldn't ride, so I cheered them on, and as I sat at brunch, which is the best post-ride meal in the area, with my crutches, I thought, 1, I'm grateful to still be here, and 2, I really want to get back on the bike. I was eager to do rides like the ones I've done with my son from DC to Pittsburgh, from Kansas City to St. Louis, from Cincinnati to Cleveland, across New York State twice, and on epic local trails like the New River Trail and the Greenbrier and the Virginia Creeper. So as soon as I could ride again, of course, I went back up Bluff Mountain Road to the site of the accident, try to figure out what happened. Impressively, for a 6'8" person, I think I did a full aerial, which is why I broke my leg. But there's a sign there directing guests to a nearby cabin, and I thought about my dad, and I thought about my Aunt Lori, and I was very grateful that for now, I got to stay on this side of Heaven's Edge. So what happened to the bear? That's the most popular question I've gotten about this story. It was summertime, so the bear might have weighed upwards of 300 pounds. Every time I tell this story, it gets bigger. But I remembered what the Chumash have known for thousands of years, which is that no creature is stronger. Thank you.
Knoxville, you're beautiful. We'll be back in August.